My wife's parents insisted. I saw a prenup saying, "This is Adam's house, and you'll leave with nothing." They smugly celebrated after I inherited $22 million, until I handed over the divorce papers and showed them exactly what the prenup said. Because I should have walked away when his mother handed me that prenup with a smug smile on her face. I am currently sitting on the deck of a lake house that I bought cash, watching the sun go down, and I finally feel like I can breathe again. It took me a year to get here, and it required blowing up my entire life. But looking back, I would push that detonator 1,000 times over. I'm a 32-year-old guy. I work in supply chain logistics. It's a boring job to most people. Lots of spreadsheets, tracking shipping containers, and arguing with dispatchers. But I'm good at it. I grew up pretty standard blue collar. My dad was a mechanic, mom worked in a diner. We didn't have much, but we owned what we had. We fixed things when they broke. We didn't throw people away. My ex-wife, let's call her Jessica, grew up in a different universe. Her parents, Robert and Linda, are what you'd call new money that desperately wants to be old money. Robert made a fortune in commercial real estate development in the 90s, and Linda made a career out of being a socialite and judging people. When I met Jessica, she seemed different. She drove a beat-up Honda, liked camping, and seemed embarrassed by her parents' flashiness. We fell in love hard and fast. I thought I had hit the jackpot, not because of the money, but because I found someone who really got me. I was an idiot. The red flags were there, but I was wearing rose-colored glasses so thick I was basically blind. The first time I met her parents, Linda asked me what my 5-year projection was for my salary, before she even asked if I wanted a drink. Robert made a joke about my dad being a grease monkey that he tried to play off as respect for manual labor, but the sneer on his face said otherwise. But the real kicker came 2 months before the wedding. Jessica told me we had to go to brunch at her parents' house. I thought we were discussing floral arrangements. Instead, I walked into an ambush. There were no waffles. Just a lawyer named Silas sitting at the dining table with a stack of documents thick enough to stop a bullet. Robert didn't even say hello. He just pointed to a chair and said, "We need to handle the business side of things." They slid a prenuptial agreement across the table. Now, I'm not against prenups. I get it. They have assets. But this wasn't just a prenup. It was a declaration of war. It stated that everything Jessica had was hers. Everything she would ever inherit was hers. The house they bought for her, which we were going to live in, was hers. If we divorced, I waived all rights to alimony, spousal support, or any asset division. It essentially said that I would leave the marriage with exactly what I came in with, my clothes and my checking account. I looked at Jessica, waiting for her to defend me. She just stared at the table and said, "It's just paper, babe. Mom and Dad won't pay for the wedding if we don't sign it, and it protects the family trust. Just sign it so we can be happy." Linda looked at me with this smug, victorious smile and said, "If you aren't after her money, this shouldn't be a problem, right? It just keeps everything separate. What's yours is yours. What's ours is ours." I was young, intimidated, and I loved Jessica. I didn't want to be the guy who ruined the wedding over money I didn't even want. So I signed it. I remember Linda checking the signature like a bank teller and then sliding it into a folder. She said, "Smart decision. Now you know your place." That should have been the moment I walked out, but I stayed. The marriage was draining. Living in Jessica's house meant I was a permanent guest. I paid half the utilities and bought all the groceries, but if I wanted to hang a picture, I had to ask permission. If I wanted to buy a new grill for the backyard, Robert would come over to inspect it and make sure it didn't clash with the aesthetic. Jessica changed too. The down-to-earth girl vanished. She started working part-time as a consultant at Robert's firm, which was code for shopping and long lunches. She started critiquing my clothes, my car, my friends. She became her mother. Every time we fought, the prenup was the elephant in the room. They held it over my head like a guillotine. Be grateful was the unspoken vibe. You're lucky to be in this tax bracket. Then, the universe decided to flip the table. My Uncle Mike died. Mike was my dad's older brother. He was the black sheep of the family, a hermit who lived in a cabin in Montana off the grid. I was the only one who kept in touch with him. We wrote letters, actual handwritten letters, and I'd go up there to fish with him every couple of years. He was a weird guy, paranoid about the government, but he had a good heart. I got a call from a lawyer in Billings a week after Mike passed. He told me I was the sole beneficiary of the estate. I expected maybe the cabin and an old truck, maybe a few $1,000 stuffed in a mattress. The lawyer said, "So, we are still finalizing the valuation, but between the 4,000 acres of land he bought in the 90s, which sits on a massive lithium deposit, and the Bitcoin wallet we recovered, the estate is valued at approximately $22 million after taxes." I dropped the phone. I literally dropped it. $22 million. I sat in my crappy office chair at work and stared at a spreadsheet for 3 hours without seeing a single number. I felt nauseous. I felt terrified. And then I felt a strange, cold sense of calm. I didn't tell Jessica immediately. I needed to process it. I flew to Montana the next weekend, telling her I had to go clean out hoarder junk. She rolled her eyes and told me to make sure I showered before coming back into her house because she didn't want cabin smell on the furniture. When I got there, it was real. The lawyers, the accountants, the bank transfers, it was all real. I set up a new bank account at a completely different bank than the one we used. I put everything there. When I came home, I was exhausted. I made a mistake, a sloppy, tired mistake. I left a folder from the Montana law firm on the kitchen counter while I went to take a shower. I came downstairs 20 minutes later and the atmosphere in the house had shifted. Usually, Jessica is in her pajamas watching reality TV and ignoring me. Tonight, she was dressed up. She had opened a bottle of wine, and my in-laws, Robert and Linda, were sitting in the living room. Robert stood up when I walked in. He was beaming. "There he is, the man of the hour." My stomach dropped. I looked at the counter. The folder was open. "You went through my mail?" I asked. "Oh, stop it," Linda said, waving a hand like she was swatting a fly. "We were tidying up. Darling, why didn't you tell us Mike was a tycoon? 22 million. That is, well, it's a very respectable number." Jessica ran over and hugged me. She hadn't hugged me like that in 3 years. "I can't believe it. We're rich. I was already looking at listings, babe. There's this estate in the Heights. It's $4 million, but it has a pool house and a 6-car garage. You can finally get rid of that truck." "We're so proud of you," Robert said, walking over and clapping me on the shoulder. "Honest to God, I always knew you had hidden depths. Now, obviously, you can't leave that kind of capital in a standard account. I've already texted my wealth management team at Goldman. They can take you on as a favor to me. We need to merge that into the family portfolio to minimize the tax exposure." I stood there, listening to them plan my life, listening to them spend my money, the money they thought I wasn't good enough to have. "Merge the accounts," I repeated slowly. "Well, naturally," Jessica said, pouring me a glass of wine. "We're married. What's mine is yours, right? That's the whole point." The hypocrisy hit me so hard I almost laughed. "What's mine is yours? Is that the rule now?" "Don't be weird," Linda said, her smile tightening just a fraction. "We're a family. We help each other. Robert has some commercial developments that need a liquidity injection. Very safe, high yield. It's a perfect place to park about 10 million of that." "I need to think about it," I said. "What is there to think about?" Jessica snapped, the mask slipping for a second. "We are buying that house. I already told the realtor we're making a cash offer tomorrow. Do not embarrass me." "I'm tired," I said. "I'm going to bed." I locked the bedroom door that night. Jessica pounded on it for a few minutes, screaming that I was being selfish before giving up. I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about the prenup. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I drove into the city and met with a divorce lawyer named Jack. He was expensive, aggressive, and he hated Robert's reputation. I handed him the prenup. "Tell me if I'm screwed," I said. "They want me to merge the money." Jack read it. He took a sip of coffee. He read it again. Then he started laughing, a deep belly laugh. "This is incredible," Jack said. "Who wrote this?" "Their lawyer. They wanted to make sure I never got a dime of the family trust." "Well," Jack said, wiping his eyes, "they were so paranoid about protecting her assets that they wrote the most draconian separate property clause I've ever seen. Look at this." He pointed to a paragraph on page 4. Any and all assets acquired during the course of the marriage by bequest, devise, or descent, as well as any appreciation of said assets, shall remain the sole and separate property of the acquiring spouse. The parties explicitly waive any claim, now or in the future, to the other's separate property, regardless of commingling of other funds or standard of living established during the marriage. They defined separate property so broadly to protect her trust fund from you, but in doing so, they protected your inheritance from her. As long as you don't put her name on the account, she can't touch a cent. No alimony, no division. You walk away with everything. I insisted on this, I said, realizing the irony. They dug their own grave, Jack said. Do you want to file? Not yet, I said. They set up a financial planning meeting for me on Monday. I want to do it then. The weekend was unbearable. They were love-bombing me. Robert was calling me son. Linda was sending me links to interior designers. Jessica was trying to be intimate, but it felt so transactional it made my skin crawl. She kept saying things like, we're going to be a power couple, and finally we fit in. Monday came. We met at their country club in a private room. Robert, Linda, Jessica, and their lawyer, Silas. Okay, Robert said, opening a folder. Here's the game plan. You'll transfer the funds to the family trust. We'll make you a co-trustee, strictly for optics, but Linda and I will retain veto power until we pass. It protects the asset from outside liabilities. And the house, Jessica added. I need the wire transfer for the earnest money by noon, $400,000. Who will be on the deed? I asked. Well, me and the trust. It's safer that way. So I pay for it, but you own it? You're being difficult, Robert sighed. We let you live in our house for 4 years rent-free. We welcomed you. Now you have a chance to contribute, to be a real partner, and you're hesitating? It's insulting. I signed a prenup, I said quietly. The room went dead silent. What? Linda asked, her eyes narrowing. The prenup, I said. The one you made me sign, the one that says strict separation of assets, no commingling. That was different, Linda scoffed. That was to protect us when you had nothing. Circumstances have changed. The contract hasn't, I said. We can void it, Robert said quickly, sweating a little. Silas can draw up a post-nuptial agreement right now. We'll tear up the old one. We're family. We don't need contracts. I think we do, I said. I had my lawyer review it. You have a lawyer? Jessica asked, her voice high and sharp. I do. And he says that because of the specific language you insisted on, the language meant to keep me poor, my inheritance is 100% mine. You can't touch it. No alimony, no division. You walk away with everything. Divorce? Jessica whispered. I'm done, I said. I'm done being a guest. I'm done being an accessory you upgrade when he gets some cash. I reached into my bag and pulled out the blue folder Jack had given me. I slid it across the mahogany table to Jessica. You're serving me? She screeched. Here? Now? I reminded her that you served me the prenup at brunch. I thought this was how your family did business. Robert stood up, his face purple. You listen to me, you ungrateful little scammer. You think you can walk away with that money? That is marital capital. We will sue you. We will tie you up in court for 10 years until you're broke. Read the prenup, Bob. I leaned back in my chair. Article 9, Section C. In the event of a legal challenge to this agreement, the losing party is responsible for all legal fees incurred by both parties. If you sue me, you'll just be paying from my lawyer with your trust fund. I looked at Linda. She looked like she had swallowed a lemon. For the first time in 4 years, she didn't have a comeback. She knew. She knew they had built an iron cage to trap me, and now I was standing outside of it with the key, and they were the ones locked out. I'm moving out today, I said, standing up. My movers are already at the house. I'm taking my clothes, my tools, and the TV I bought. You can keep the rest. I love you, Jessica wailed, grabbing my arm. You can't do this over money. I'm not doing it over money, I said, pulling my arm away. I'm doing it because you only started loving me again when the check cleared. I walked out of that country club and I didn't look back. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Robert tried to sue. He claimed fraud. He claimed duress. He claimed I had misled them. It took one hearing.
The judge looked at the prenup. He looked at the fact that their lawyer wrote it. He looked at the clause that explicitly excluded inheritance. Case dismissed, the judge said. The contract is unambiguous. Because of the loser pays clause, Robert had to write a check to my lawyer for $40,000. Jack framed a copy of it for his office. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Jessica got the house, which she can't really afford the taxes on without her parents' help. I walked away with my $22 million, my sanity, and a very valuable lesson. I heard through the grapevine that Robert's liquidity issue was actually a massive debt hole he was trying to plug. Without my cash injection, he had to sell off 2
commercial properties at a loss. They had to downsize. Jessica is apparently dating some junior partner at a law firm now. I'm sure they made him sign a prenup. I hope for his sake he read it. I'm currently fixing up an old motorcycle in my new garage. I have a dog, I have peace and quiet, and I don't have to ask permission to hang a picture. It's funny. They spent so much time and money trying to ensure I would never get a piece of their pie that they forgot to protect themselves from the possibility that I might bake my own. And honestly, the pie tastes a lot better when you don't have to eat it with snakes. If you enjoyed reading about how greed can literally come back to bite you in the assets, hit that subscribe button. It costs $0, unlike my ex-in-law's legal fees.